everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you back. I am joined in person this time with my esteemed co-host, Tim.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Tim.
It's good to be back. The snow and the ice didn't keep me away.
Well, it's good to have you back. It's good to be back in the studio recording again. Yeah, and it's good to be back. Well, not necessarily in front of the camera. I don't like being in front of the camera, but it's good to be recording a podcast. I'm pretty excited about what today's one is about. And let's talk about it. As you would have seen from the title, it's 5 things to grow your business in 2023, and it's literally that, isn't it? It's 5 things that if you do them, if you attempt them, even, you will see a notable improvement in your business in some way or another in 2023. And it's stuff that we're implementing ourselves, and stuff that we strongly advise you to implement as well if it's, if they're not strong points in your own business. So I'll give it over to you now, Tim.
Yeah, I think we'll just jump straight into it.
Yeah.
And the first one we have on the list is Reels. Reels, it seems pretty obvious, but it's one of those things that you can get a little scared of and a little nervous to be in front of the camera, but it makes such a difference. If you've seen our own page, The Creative Collective on Instagram, we've posted a few Reels and they've got a couple thousand views, and we weren't expecting that. We were just like, oh, let's see what happens. And I don't even think our faces are on it. It's just behind the scenes stuff, and they've done really well and people have noticed them. So it's just a simple way to get sort of viral videos and a way to grow your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in both brands, I've seen a huge increase in traffic and engagement and stuff like that just with doing Reels. And it's been, I can't really tell you how many inquiries and how many bookings I've had because of it, because I don't necessarily track that side of things. And obviously, if a couple inquires, they'll be like, oh, I saw you on Instagram. Whereas they could have seen you on a Reel, but there's no way of knowing that. But just engagement, just getting likes and follows and stuff like that, it does help. It does help with social proof, especially, like with our business now, the Creative Collective, because we're still relatively small in terms of our following. Getting a following, getting likes and engagement and stuff like that is important.
Yeah.
So
we've seen the growth just from those Reels. If you think about the amount of thousands of people that have seen them, we get a couple of likes on our photos, and we just post a couple of Reels, and you can visually see the impact of it, which is really nice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So that's number 1, Reels. Number 2 is video in general. Now, we've discussed this off air, and it can be varied in terms of how you interpret it, but if you're a photographer and you've never tried video, you might not want to do any kind of video. But video in general, ultimately, in terms of what we have in mind, is posting highlights, posting behind the scenes. Like if you have a YouTube channel, post to that. If you don't have a YouTube channel, get one. And even if you are just a photographer, post behind the scenes stuff, post things about your latest session, whether it's, just a film put together with photos to some music. Get video going in your business. And obviously it kind of ties in with Reels, because whatever you do for video in general can also then be used in Reels. Yeah, they're one and the same thing. So definitely look into that. What are your thoughts on videos?
Yeah, I think when we say video, we don't necessarily mean you must go and learn how to do video and shoot video. Don't become a videographer all of a sudden or overnight. You can if you want. It's really fun to learn. But just to have video content across your platforms, whether it be your website or your Instagram or social media, basically you necessarily don't need to shoot it, but if you have someone else that shoots it, say you work with a videographer on a wedding or on a couple shoot or something, then just say, oh, can I use some clips or would you tag me in it? And then you say, oh, maybe can I post it on my page as well? Just have some content somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if it might sound silly because you might have to spend some money, but even if you pay someone to shoot a video of you shooting a wedding or a couple shoot or something, and then you sort of have that in the background of your website or just post that on your social media, that can help in a big way that you might not even realize. Like there's some trends where video is playing in the background of websites and it actually just looks really cool. And whether the person shot that or not, that doesn't matter. It's just some sort of video. And that's sort of where I feel marketing is heading towards pushing. It might help with SEO on Google, and it'll definitely help on your Instagram or Facebook or something. Because if you scroll down your Instagram, the amount of videos that are there as opposed to photos, I think it's like 4-1 at the moment on my own page. And it doesn't necessarily mean shoot your own video. You can learn how to do it. It is cool. But just have video in some way, whether someone else shoots it for you or you shoot it yourself, do it on your phone. Just make sure you incorporate video within your marketing at some point.
That just made me think of something that I did. I think it was last year, and I kind of use it in my more for the video side of weddings, but it's something that you can do on a personal level as well for your business. But pick up a little gimbal. I can't remember the name of the DJI. I think it's the Osmo
4, I think.
It's the 4 or 5. I think the 6 is the latest, but they all kind of do the same thing. And even if it's just a time lapse of,
about to say, just a time lapse.
A time lapse of a wedding day, or a time lapse of the ceremony, or a time lapse of the drinks reception, or whatever the case may be. And then put that onto YouTube. Put it up onto your reels, and it's something. It's
even just a GoPro. I've seen someone strapped it to their chest for the whole day, and then they just have that, and they make a little time lapse of the day, and it looks really cool. And that's got a lot of views and a lot of inquiries from it. I've been told.
And I think stuff like that matters because people want to see what we're like on a wedding day. And obviously this is not specifically for weddings. We're wedding photographers and videographers, so that's our bread and butter. It's what we know about. But certainly from our perspective, if we can show couples what we're like on a wedding day without them experiencing their wedding day with us yet, the chance of us booking them is huge. And that's kind of where that comes in. So that's definitely a vote for video for me. And I'm pretty excited for what we're going to be doing with video this year. It's going to be good. All right. So the next topic is vendor communications and networking.
Yeah. So we're talking about this off air, and it might sound a bit strange, but vendor communication, basically just saying, talk to your vendors either before the day or on the day and after the day. So always be in communication with them. When I say always, I don't mean literally message them every 5 minutes, but tag them in any post that you shoot with. Say it's a flower, makeup, hair, a bridal dress, where the men get their suits. And we ask these questions in our questionnaire before someone books with us or after they booked with us. And we get all those things, and we sometimes message them before the day saying, oh, we're so excited to work with you. We'll meet them on the day and we'll just introduce ourselves. Then there's a face-to-face meeting. And then afterwards, just send a message and be like, oh, it was so great working with you today. I'll send you some of the photos if you want to put them in your social media. And then you'll find you might make a reel and they'll share it. They might make a reel themselves, tag you in it. You can share it. And then it just works both ways. They get some social media presence and you get some for free. Literally just a couple messages.
Yeah. And that's something that's happened quite a lot recently. Like we've gotten tagged in so many different things recently. Now obviously it's been from past weddings that we haven't shot as the Creative Collective. So, take that for what it's worth. But it just shows that if you are networking with people, if you are tagging people, if you are just getting yourself out there and being like, hey, this is me, this is what we do. And you're just providing value to them, because everyone needs content.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's photos or videos, everyone needs content. And if you're tagging people who need the content, they just share it on. They share it to their story. They share it to their reel. They'll likely tag you in return. And anyone who looks at their stuff, you know, sees you. And you know, it's again that social proof. That social proof is important. It's important what we do. And yeah.
And I think also just another aspect is we do talk to each other in the industry. So if you work with someone and you have a good experience, then they'll say, "Oh, this photographer was so great. It was such a pleasure working with him." I remember I met up with a coordinator at an event the other day, and they were like, "Oh, I mean, one of your other photographers was shooting there," and I was like, "Oh, great!" And they were like, "Oh, it was so nice chatting to them," and I was like, "Well, there you go." And that's just chatting to the vendors, just chatting to the coordinator that I shot one day, another photographer shot the other day, and we just got chatting about it, and it was such a good experience. And we talked to each other. So even as simple as not simple, nothing is simple in this industry, but just talking to someone on makeup on the day, that communication can lead to another booking later. They can be like, "Oh, I got their photos back and they were amazing," or "They were so nice to deal with." And I can say the same. Now someone might ask us, do we know any hair and makeup artists? And we can say, "Yeah, we've worked with some lovely ones." There you go. People have asked us about celebrants in the past, and we say, "Oh yeah, we know a company, they're really good," and send them the details. And that's just by literally talking to someone for 5-10 minutes on the wedding day or after the wedding day, and it's made the world of difference. And we've got bookings from it, as you said earlier. I think we got 3 bookings from one wedding just because the makeup artist shared it so many times. And it just happened.
And that's huge. And it's an important part of what we do, and it costs nothing at the end of the day. It literally costs nothing for anyone, and that's important. All right, so number 4 is something that I don't want to get too technical with. You know, depending on what everyone thinks of it, we might do a more in-depth podcast on it later. But your website, it's ultimately your portfolio. You know, it's the 21st century. There's no such thing as, you know, like physical portfolios anymore. Yeah, social media, you might have some form of portfolio on there. People can see some of your work, but your website ultimately is where a lot of your work should be, and a lot of your best work should be. You know, you should only be portraying your best work on the website. And I know, just from a personal perspective, if I you know, try and get into a website and it takes 5 seconds to get onto the website, I'm gone. And you know, in the past and still currently, I use a website called GT Metrics, and I highly recommend that. If you have a website, you go into GT Metrics, you put in your URL, and you just see what it has to tell you. It'll tell you how long it takes to load. It'll tell you what photos are too big, what text is, you know, taking up too much bandwidth, or whatever the case may be. I don't know all those technical terms, but ultimately it ensures that the user experience on your website is as good as it can possibly be. And that's hugely important, because you don't want to be turning people away before they've even seen your work. You know, you can have the best work possible. You can have the most amazing prices. You can have everything going for you. But if people are getting turned away the moment they try and get onto your website, you're done. And even if it's not as fast as it could be, you know, so you're still getting bookings. You know, just speed it up. You know, check on GT Metrics, see what needs to be improved, and then go from there. You know, there's a lot of people on Fiverr, for example, that you can pay them literally a $5 and they'll speed up your website. I've done it before. It's scary handing over all that kind of information to someone who you don't know to, you know, fix a website that's obviously very, very important to you. But if you know stuff, if you know what's wrong, you tell them what's wrong, they'll go in and fix it, and you'll have a website that loads within, you know, a second or two at the most. And that's going to make a world of difference to couples who are, you know, trying to look at your work. So yeah, that's it for number 4. Number 5.
Number 5, we've got customer experience. It's a pretty simple one. But yeah, just in every aspect of dealing with the customer from start to finish and even beyond finishing, just create a really good customer experience. And I hate the word customer. I hate the word clients, to be honest. I don't know if I've expressed it before, but when dealing with wedding photography, I hate using the word client. I like to use the word couples when my couples do this or when I talk to my couples. And that's part of the couple experience.
Yeah.
Is the way you talk to them or where you interact with them. That can make a huge difference for them and for future bookings. They might say, oh, they were so lovely to work with. And they might recommend you to a friend. They might be like, oh, they were so easy to work with. The whole process was smooth. And we will talk about that in another podcast is the first inquiry, the follow-up and all that. And that's all part of this. Make sure you've got that experience down. Spend some time, think about it and make it right. Don't think, oh, this is such a waste of time, or don't think I'm wasting my day. I could be editing. That is part of bookings. It's part of the whole process is an experience. And even sales, after sales, that's a big thing. So on Pixieset or Pic-Time, they can get some prints done. That's all things to consider. And yes, that's a way to grow your business as well, is sell prints and
absolutely,
and have that all sort of passive. They can Pic-Time and Pixieset all send that to someone else. It gets printed and onwards. But that's all part of the experience, and they really do take note of that. They think, oh, that was so easy. I'm so happy with that. Rather than you having to like push them. If you push sales, we found that does not work. It just, if you are too pushy, then they're like, oh, I don't enjoy that. But if it's all sort of streamlined and you make it nice for them, they'll be like, oh yeah, and they might recommend you for onwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the important things to remember with, when considering customer experience is that, yes, first and foremost, we need to be a problem solver for our couples. Their problem is they need a wedding photographer. That's problem number one. I think we spoke about this in one of our earlier episodes, but problem number one is that they need a wedding photographer or videographer. Second problem is they want someone who has this style or that style or whatever. But while you're solving their problems for you, you also need to keep them or remind them of the fact that they're in good hands. Just solving a problem for someone doesn't mean that they're in good hands, but being there, kind of I wouldn't say holding their hands through it, but just serving them in any way possible, making the experience as streamlined as possible, and just being present.
I think that's a big one that I've actually seen recently. We haven't spoken about it, but I've seen a lot on Facebook recently where people are saying, "Oh, I haven't been able to get hold of my photographer for a week."
There has,
you've also seen it, and I was sort of sitting there like, guys, we email the same day, or if it's at 10 o'clock at night and we're in bed, we probably won't answer it. We'll answer it the next morning. Sometimes we will. Sometimes we'll be like, I'm awake.
May as well do it.
Let's answer it. But most of the time we're on it within 24 hours. And if you leave them stranded for a week, they're not going to think it was a good experience. They're not going to recommend you. On the day it might be awkward. Just being there, being present. That was a good one.
Yeah. And that's the thing, if you're non-responsive or very, very slow to respond before the booking, you're probably not going to get the booking. And if you're slow to respond after getting the booking, you're probably not going to get a referral. And both of those are bad for your business. So, and
also a bit of a strange one after the wedding. I mean, we just had the craziest year ever, and I had a pretty crazy year before that as well. And our normal lead times will say X amount of weeks, but we may have said I need to push that a week. But the thing is, you need to communicate that. I had one before I even moved to Ireland where I was a week over, and I just said, I'm sorry, it's taking a bit longer. I had a couple weddings that I've shot in between. So I've had those days off where I haven't been able to edit. Now that's pushed me back a few days. And they were like, okay, thanks for letting us know. Take your time. And I'm like, cool, great. And just because I said that before they asked the question, I was on it, and I was before that, and they were fine with it, and they sort of said take your time, and that's also part of the experience.
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing: is just be present, communicate as much as you can.
Yeah,
There's no over communicating when it comes to our side of it.
not at all. We need to be there. We need to reply and respond and just be present, and that's important. I think that wraps it up. It's certainly the 5 things that we wanted to talk about today, the 5 things that we are certainly looking at changing for 2023. I'm excited to put a lot of them into practice. I know you're our Reels man, so
I'm our Instagram man.
You're the Instagram man in general, so I know that's one thing I'm probably not going to take too much part in, but yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good year. And I think the most important thing is, even if you think, oh, I've got all these things under control, just try and improve in various ways, throughout your business. Identify things that could be better, identify things that need to be completely left alone or dropped entirely, whatever the case may be, because it's not going to be as busy as last year as well. I think that's also important for a lot of you out there. It's not going to be as crazy as 2022 was, both in terms of busyness and actual bookings. So the more that you can get your business out there, the more bookings that you can get, the more money you can have coming in, and the greater chance that you have to be successful in the business. So
yeah, I think another point is we're saying 5 things to grow your business in 2023. That's not saying necessarily you're going to get more bookings in 2023. Yeah. We are growing it for the future. It's not, we don't want 1 year of growth. We want to keep growing it. And this is essentially to help you book more in 2024 and 2025 and onwards. Yeah. If you just put these in place now, hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, I think 2023, if you do it right, will set the stage. It will set the stage for 2023, because there will always be those last minute bookings. So there's a good chance that you will get some. Yeah. But it'll set the stage for years to come, and especially if you stick with the things that are going to change your business, whether it's these 5 things that we've discussed today, or things that you've identified yourself. If you make those changes and you keep them changed, that's it. That's the path to success. So from us, I think that's it for this episode. It's been great being back in person. Yeah. Looking forward to the next one. And for all of you out there, we'll see you on the next episode. So thank you very much for listening to the Creative Collective, and we'll see you then.
See you then.
Thanks. Cheers.